Good morning, everybody. It is a Wednesday, what day have we got? 23rd of May. It is 8:40 in the morning, and I am once again on the way to Dublin. This time for Irish EV Owners Association business. I am on my way to the studio of a television channel in Ireland known as TV3, where myself and a fellow committee member are scheduled to be interviewed for a segment of a morning show about electric cars. Any excuse to talk about electric cars, of course. So I'm doing a little bit more. I'm doing the same route as I always do. So from my house to the M8 motorway, the M7 motorway, all the ways to Dublin. Pretty straightforward. Usual charge in Cashel. Now I've seen online that the charger in Portlaoise is working again, and I've had confirmed reports that Zoe's have been able to charge there, so I'm gonna take a gamble and actually charge in Portlaoise just because of the location compared to Dublin. It means that I'm gonna have to do a slightly longer charge in Cashel in order to make the 75 odd kilometers from Cashel to Portlaoise, but that's fine, we can do that. I think I'll need a coffee by the time I get there. I took some screenshots from CanZE this morning just to see what my battery temperature was like and available energy, yada yada yada, and I'm just going to keep tabs on that basically as a follow-up on my last video about the hashtag BMSgate, and I just wanted to see another complaint about this particular upgrade is that the charging speed reduces quicker. I would disagree with that. I think what happens is that when the available kilowatt hours in the battery reaches a certain level or a certain state of charge, that it then throttles down. Now, it's a bit of a shame that I actually don't have a old car without the BMS update to actually cross-reference this, but basically after the BMS update the car starts throttling back from around 75%ish. Now, and with throttling back I mean it'll reduce the charging rate from the usual 43 to sort of, it'll start sliding down to about, I think it is roughly 25 kilowatt hours by the time it reaches about 80%. So it sort of takes I think it is a gradual decline. I don't think it's all of a sudden decline, but it might be quite rapid, I don't know. It'll throttle the charge back. Now, by the time it has reached that state of charge, the amount of energy that the charger has added, I think, is roughly the equivalent of what it used to be like once the car hit around 90%, 85-90%. I've always maintained that since the BMS update, I used to charge until about 95%, sometimes 99%, because it was convenient and quick. But I always did feel that I didn't get the full benefit of the charge out of it. So I actually think the amount of kilowatt hours that is loaded when the car reaches about 85% is actually the equivalent of around 95-100% prior to the BMS update, which is why I don't see a reduction in range, even though I now disconnect at 85% instead of 99 to or 95 to 100%. I don't see a reduction in range. I can do the same amount of distance, even though that my car says it has 15% less battery, 10 to 15%. the only explanation behind that for me is the amount of energy in the battery is actually now displayed correctly, and the car can therefore make an accurate range estimate. So I will look into that a bit more. It's not going to be the entire focus of this episode, but I am taking a few notes on the side. So here we are, Cashel, 74 kilometers thereabouts. I have not held back. I've basically done the speed limit the entire way up, which was about half of that was motorways. So it's about 120 kilometers an hour for half, which hence the actual average consumption right there. Yeah. Let's see what the other graph says, which is what I said in my last video was more accurate, I would imagine, when it comes to an R-Link point of view. So there we go, 14.6 kilowatt hours and 1 kilowatt hour regenerated. As you can see, pretty darn high. Okay, let's see what CanZE says about this whole thing. I've got my phone here. It's a lovely sunny day, by the way. Today is meant to be about 23 degrees, which is absolutely outstanding for Ireland. So connected, and I'll use the charging screen, which is the one that I have been using before. It is saying I've got 7 kilowatt hours remaining, which means that it's 7.0, by the way. Let me just take a screenshot and I shall overlay that here. So 7 kilowatt hours remaining, energy to full 15.3. So let's plug in and see where we are. So we're charging, we can hear the fans going. So it's currently saying time to full 40 minutes. I have available charging power of 41.1 kilowatt hours. So I'm gonna charge here until probably, I'm gonna need 75 kilometers thereabouts to get to Portlaoise. So I'll probably charge up to about 75%, just so that a one-on-one thing. I won't be doing 120 kilometers per hour on the next leg, just to conserve a bit of energy, which is what I usually tend to do anyway. Actually no, 75, no, I should be able to do that at semi-motorway speeds. But anyway, look, we will see. I usually am able to make junction 3, which is 50 kilometers away, from around a 50% charge. So yeah, I'd say if I charge to 75-80% and then boot it down to Portlaoise, we'll be fine. So 15 minutes later, we are charging at 28 kilowatts, which has just dropped down to 22 as predicted. But my available energy is now 16.8 kilowatts, so we've added roughly 10 kilowatts in 15 minutes, which is exactly what you'd expect with regards to optimum charging. Renault advertised this car as reaching 80% in 20 minutes. It does that. I think it's 20 minutes, it might even be 25. Don't know, I'll look it up, I'll display it below here. I think it is 80% in 25 minutes, now that I think about it. But we're currently at 77% and still charging at 22. There's a fairly interesting sort of like charge graph. Now I think my phone slightly either cancelled the data or something along that line, but it seemed to have cut off the previous bit. So I'll take a screenshot of this and I shall overlay this. Basically what you can see in the middle graph, you can see the top line where it's sort of hovering around the 40, which is the main charge, and then it sort of tapers off to roughly 36 for a short period of time before dropping to about 28 and then down to 22. Let's see when the next step down is from the 22 kilowatts. I think it's probably after 80%. We're currently on 78% and we've added 17.3 kilowatt hours, or we have 17.3 kilowatt hours energy available, which is quite good. So I'm going to sit here for another 5 minutes or so and finish my coffee. So we're a few minutes later. I don't even think it's a few minutes later. I barely have zipped my coffee. We're at 81%, and as expected, it seems to be declining again. It went down to about 18 kilowatts for a minute or two. We're now down to 14, and we're charging. We're at 81%. Energy available 17.9, or now just ticked over to 18 kilowatts. So energy available of 18 kilowatts should at least get me 100 kilometers at the current rate that I'm driving, which is good. That makes for an interesting graph though. I might see if I can zoom in on it a little in post as such. Yeah, it seems to really have several stages of like coming down. I would imagine the next drop is probably going to be to about 11. It seems to sort of every sort of 2 or 3%, it seems to be dropping a little. What I do find interesting is that it's not really a gradual decline. It does seem to have plateaus. Most of the other charging curves that I've seen of other cars, admittedly DC charging cars, they all seem to have a gentle taper off, whereas the Zoe seems to really have jagged plateaus, which is, you know, I don't know, I guess it's the same thing whether you gently taper off to a level or whether you just sort of drop a little and then do it for longer. It doesn't really matter. Interesting, eh? Okay, coffee finished. We are at 87%. Time to head on. We seem to be charging at 11 kilowatts now for the last minute or two. Another screenshot right there. It does make for interesting reading though. If you want to optimize your charging, you really shouldn't be going beyond 81%. Well, it's not entirely true. I still would consider 22 kilowatt charging relatively fast. Once you go below 20 though, there's no real point unless you're stuck from a charging infrastructure point of view. I would just disconnect and go. At that stage you've got 17-18 kilowatt hours worth of energy. That should do you at least 60 miles, not 70. Well, depending on how you drive. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna disconnect before it drops below 10, and we're gonna go on to Portlaoise. We will see you guys there. Sure, I'm not making this up. We've added a little over 14 kilowatt hours of, well, we've used a bit of 14 kilowatt hours of energy. I'm going to stop at 25 minutes. We are well over 80%, so that is perfect. So we are at 89%, a car showing 93 kilometers of estimate range. That's just because my consumption has been pretty darn high. So I'm going to try and drop that a little and take it handy going up to Portlaoise. We will see you guys there. So I'm at Portlaoise. I see 2 green lights on the charger, so that's good. You know, the way I was saying I was going to hold back, I kind of didn't. I did 110 kilometers an hour pretty much the entire way. Currently done 148 kilometers, as you saw. My consumption is pretty darn high, although my eco score went from 48 to 49, so that's probably a good thing. Right, let's plug in and see if this charger will play ball. Now, if they haven't actually upgraded the software, I'm going to have to do my whole charge point dance, because this charger never ever did the hot battery. So if it does the hot battery without me interfering right now, they have actually done a software upgrade, in which case I will be absolutely delighted. I will report back in a minute. Okay, so we are charging. We were actually at 21%, not 27, when I got talking to the Leaf owner next to me, as well as a Toyota Land Cruiser owner on the other side, who wanted to ask some questions about electric cars, which was fine. So to answer the question, yes, the charger works, but they haven't upgraded the software. It's still the old crappy software, as in I had to stop and start the charge 2 or 3 times to actually get the timing right, because my battery is hot. Which is the bit that kind of stopped me from coming here in the first place, because the Junction 3 charger is a more up-to-date unit. I do not have to worry about this. I am quite certain that this charger will keel over at about 70-80%. It'll something will happen and the charge will just stop. Either case, I have if I get to about 70-80%, I'll have enough to get to Dublin anyway. Let's check CanZE, shall we? Let's just see now. Let's bring up the old. Let's see now. It's now initializing the widgets. Let's see. I'm currently charging at 37 kilowatts, not the 40. That is interesting. Because the other charger in Cashel definitely charges at 40. Let me just take a screenshot of the charging screen. Wow, yeah, that's strange. It's like the actual voltage here is different or something. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I've just taken a screenshot anyway. I'm currently charging at 39.9 kilowatt hours, and I'm pretty certain that Cashel charged at 41 point something. So there's about a 1 kilowatt of a difference. That's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, we're charging. I'm gonna go to the old bathroom, and when we get to 80%, we'll get on our way. Okay, we are at 89%, 95 kilometers on the estimate range. I only have about 75 to go. I'm going to go to Dublin now. I'm a little bit late. Yeah, I got talking to the Leaf owner next to me. I just need to go. Right, made it down to MCC Energy, which is where we're going to be doing our TV interview. I tried the charger that they have on the wall here, but I think the supply is a little dodgy. It didn't want to charge whilst my car was trying to cool the battery down, but I have enough to find a charger around Dublin anyway. So the producer just called me. They're a little bit late, but we'll get the show on the road as soon as possible. So here we are. We are in Lucan. So the TV3 interview is over. I'm hopeful I'll have some footage for it at some stage. I'm not sure when it actually is going to be broadcast and how much they'll actually use. That's always a surprise with these things. But anyway, I am charging. This is my first time being in Lucan, actually. I've never actually been here. Delighted to say that the charge point actually can handle a hot battery, because as you can hear, the battery fans, the rear fans are actually on. I tried to charge at the MCC Energy, but I don't think their supply was a little bit stable enough. The car kept cutting out, but it was a very old unit they have on the wall there, so it probably is due an upgrade or something. Either case, it is 2:15. I've been on the road since 8:15. I think it is lunchtime. I believe there is a McDonald's in the shopping centre behind me, and I think that sounds really tempting right now. Actually, before I forget, I didn't do any of the CanZE stuff in Portlaoise because I got distracted by the Leaf owner as well as the Toyota owner who wanted to actually talk to me about electric cars. So currently I am charging at 41.7 kilowatts. I will actually take a screenshot of this. Here we go. So I have 6 kilowatt hours available energy to full 16. DC power in kilowatts is 38 at the moment, but I think it was 37 thereabouts earlier. But interestingly, I'll just have a quick peek at the temperature heat map. Yeah, it's getting a little bit warm now, although in saying that, I am not seeing any batteries over 30 degrees, so it's 29 degrees is where most of the battery is at. Voltage heat map My battery seems to be relatively balanced. It's a little bit on the low side in certain cells, indicated with the red, but it looks pretty okay. With regards to the charging graphs, I think I'll just leave them be, because we saw what the charging graphs did in Cashel. It is not going to be any different. This car will be a solid performer the whole way around. Yeah, I think it is time for lunch. So, after an extensive lunch, we are back in the car, which is currently just ticked over to 90%. That's always a good sign you've had McDonald's, when you actually get sort of indigestion and burping and things like that. Anyways, let's check the old CanZE. We're at 90%, so I'm expecting something like charging at around 7 or 8 kilowatt hours. Very low, I would imagine. Where are we? DC power 10.7. No, we're still at 11 kilowatts. That's not too bad. Let me just take a quick screenshot of that before it changes, because no doubt it will. There we go, 10.7. Heat wise, I'm still hearing the fans going. The battery still hasn't actually this is amazing. I love this cooling so much. The battery is still less than 30 degrees. Amazing. Anyhow, we are going to disconnect, and we are going to go to probably back to Portlaoise. I might make a stop somewhere along the way, but I'm not entirely sure yet. So 31 minutes. I really hope you can read this, because the sun is really at it. 31 minutes, 17.7 kilowatts loaded. We are going to stop it. We're going to go on our way. Well, it looks like everybody's away with the nice weather. I was going to go and drop past Naas and go and see if Phil was around, but he isn't. He's in the UK, probably collecting cars and things like that. So it looks like I'm going to go straight back to Portlaoise. What I will do in Portlaoise, I will film my charge point dance, as I call it. I must trademark that or something along that line, which basically is the procedure I need to do and the explanation why I need to do them, on how to get a charger starting for a Renault Zoe with hot battery and outdated software. And just to stress again, the only reason I have this problem is because the software at the charger, in the charger, is outdated. This particular problem has been solved since 2014. 4 years. And we're still facing this problem here in Ireland, just because ESB will not update the software on these chargers. Now that I got that out of the way, I'll see you guys in Portlaoise. Okay, I'm apparently live. Let me switch the video around. Hello guys. Now, just a quick video on how to start the charger in Portlaoise, the fast charger, which you can see right here, with a Renault Zoe when your battery is warm. Now, I've just driven Mallow, Dublin and back down here. My battery is pretty toasty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in the car. I'm going to show you what happens with the charger and what the problems are. So if you just excuse me for a little whilst I plug the car in. Sorry about the noise, by the way. It's a pretty warm day. Let me just unlock it. It'll lock the cable in place. We scan our card and I'm going to start the charge. Now, I'll back off a little. I hope you can see the screen. You'll hear it click. And there it goes. So it's going to start charging. Now it's going to stop in a minute, and I'll go to the back of the car and you can hear why. I'm not sure if you can actually hear it yet. It's going to start in a second. No, it's hard to make it out. the cooling fans are starting in the back of the car. Can you sort of hear it? Don't know. But anyway, what has happened over here on this end, as you can see by this, it's actually stopped charging. So this won't work. Process complete, it says here. The way around it, let me just press stop, is I'm going to switch it around to me, and I'm going to move away so you might be able to hear me. The way around this is by starting the charge, waiting for the fans to kick in. The charge will stop and you start a charge as fast as possible again, so that you can synchronize the charger with the car. So what should happen is that the charger should pause the charge, but because it's running old software, it doesn't pause, it stops. So this is what I like to call the charge point dance. I should really trademark that, but I won't. I'm not that kind of person. So let's go back to the car. Still plugged in. Gonna start my car. Gonna wait for it to start. So I'm gonna hear it click in a minute. There you go. Then I'm gonna wait for the second click, which means that it stops. This will go green. There we go. We're gonna immediately press continue, tap our card, continue, keep doing this until you eventually end up with process complete. We're gonna stop it, and hopefully I wasn't too late. This was a little slow, and this might take a few chances, might take a few tries. Here we go again. Was this in time? Bar is green, blue. It looks like I made it. So we should see, there you go. So there we go, we are charging. And here goes, stops again. Now you can see the frustrations that Renault Zoe owners have with this particular charger. Fans have just started, and here we go, continue again. There we go. Come on, kilowatt hours. There you go. Charging up. Looks like we are on the way. Move back to the back of the car. You can probably hear the fans. That's active cooling in action right there. So that is how you start this charger, and it is a whole lot of work. On warm days like this, it is a lot of work, and the fix is probably about 4 years old at this stage. It's called a software update. The software update is a very simple process. Now, I'm quite sure e-cars will have to pay for it, which is probably the reason why it hasn't been done. The software upgrade would solve this instantaneously. So what should happen, rather than this whole palaver, is that the car starts charging, requests a pause, spins up the fans, charger pauses, spins up the fans, and then resumes to charge. And what happens is what you just saw. You can tell it's a software problem because newer chargers like Junction 3M8, just 25 kilometers down the road here, handles this beautifully. Cashel is another example, no problems whatsoever. This one, no. Okay, I think that's about as much boring things that I can say here. Thanks guys for watching, and hopefully this will be a bit informative for Zoe owners. Bye now. And 20 minutes later we are at 89%, 90%. Yeah. So what you basically saw earlier was a quick live video that I did on the Facebook group of the Irish EV Owners Association. Basically showing the issues that we have as Renault Zoe owners with this particular charge point. But as you can tell, I got it going, and it's sad actually that we have to go through all these hoops in order to actually get a charge. So yeah. So eCars, if you were watching this, please just upgrade the software already. Before I disconnect, I just had to look at the heat map. The highest cell is now 32 degrees and the lowest is like 24. There's a nice bit of a difference in it, but it's still not too warm. The charging, I think I was still pulling over 10 kilowatts, which I thought was amazing. 13.7. I mean, you know, I'm at 92%. You know, that's pretty impressive. So there obviously is a reason for that. I'm not entirely sure what that reason is, but it appears to be pulling more than what it was over in Lucan, which is interesting. Anyway, 92%. I have over 100 kilometers of range. I think it's at about 118, 120. That should do me absolutely fine. It is 75 kilometers down to Cashel, so I will see you guys there. Now, here we are, Cashel. Just over 400 kilometers done. Still a pretty nice average speed. According to CanZE, we are at a 14.9% state of charge, which is just above the alarm limit, which is okay. My the battery voltage is about 344. It's pretty damn low, but it's okay. We're gonna plug in and we're gonna charge. We're gonna charge just enough to get home, and I'm not gonna bother with CanZE again for the rest of the trip. The CanZE info, by the way, was just an FYI. I'm not entirely sure I've actually answered any of the questions with regards to the change in the charge profile. I showed that it was happening, but I'm not entirely convinced that I've actually done it properly. So what I should probably do sometime is do a charge curve on one of these, but properly, from like a low state of charge all the way up to 100%, or as close to as possible. See, the issue is that the nearest one to me is about 30 kilometers away. Oh, actually, no, hang on. There's a new one that's just opened up in Cork. Might do that sometime on a Sunday morning when I've got nothing to do. Okay, let's plug in, charge up, and go home. So I'm on the last leg. I'm just past Mitchelstown. Got another 30 or so kilometers left to home. 50 kilometers showing on range, not a problem. So I actually ended up charging for, I think it was 32 minutes thereabouts. The car was at 90 something percent. Just because I got chatting to a very nice French couple who are admiring the French Zoe. They'd actually never seen the Zoe, and they were just asking all sorts of questions. And of course, the questions turned to, "Oh, how are you?" And you know, I had questions of, "How long are you here for?" And you know, I had to confess to them that I actually wasn't Irish when they said the obligatory, "Oh, you've got a beautiful country here." And yeah, it's not really my country; it's my adopted country. I'm not from these parts. Although one could be mistaken every once in a while. So I will see you guys when I'm back home. I'll just give you a quick synopsis as usual of the totals. We might have a quick peek and see how hot the old battery is. I've had the air conditioning on for the last while because it is pretty darn hot out there for me and for Ireland. It's about 22 degrees, which is lovely. I'm really, really lucky with this weather. It definitely made for easier driving, I think. Definitely faster anyway. I mean, my current average consumption is 18.4 and an average speed of 85.9 kilometers per hour. That's not a slouch, really. So I will see you guys when I'm home. And there we have it, folks. 473 kilometers done. Great average speed. Decent enough consumption. That's it. End of a busy day. Time to plug this baby in to charge for tomorrow, and then I guess that's the end of this episode. Right, we will see you guys next time, I guess.